Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Expressions Podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. This week, we talk with Patrick Warpath, a filmmaker and photographer.
So we'll just keep shoveling. Oh!
Good day, sir. Welcome to the show.
Hello. Thank you for having me. Thank you.
Thanks for being here.
Been waiting to have you on for a long time. We talked when you were in our store a while ago, in my store, Henry's. And your passion and your excitement and your energy, I knew you'd be a great person to talk to. So thank you so much for saying yes and for being a part of our show tonight.
Yeah, of course. It's a huge pleasure. Every time we talk, it's always really insightful. I always learn a lot. I hope I can bring the same value. So I was really honored when you mentioned that you asked me to come on the podcast. So thank you both for having me again.
Not a problem at all.
Awesome.
Always excited to have another photographer on the show and a photographer filmmaker. I'm not a filmmaker myself, but always excited to talk cameras and stuff. I'm sure we'll get into a lot of that.
Yeah. We have to wean out the photographers because that's the majority of the people we know, right? So on a show like this, we're trying to talk to creatives of all kinds. And one of our hosts, Ryan, isn't a photographer. So we try and take it easy on him sometimes and not have photographer after photographer. But the filmmaking is an interesting side of things. And I'm not as familiar with filmmaking as a whole. I love the medium and I love the creativity that you can bring to it. I just don't think of myself as that super creator that comes up with these great ideas. I made a movie once, though. Mark was in it. It was
I didn't know until we got there. Actually, I agreed to do it and then found out I was like the main guy that was like the last man standing. And
that's usually how it goes.
Yeah, well, exactly. My favorite though was without giving away the plot of the movie, I ended up with like, I don't know, what did I have on me? 4 backpacks and I'm carrying 3 tripods and I got cameras hanging and I'm literally running as fast as I can. And the camera is in a building and I'm running and I'm calling my niece and I run past a window and then past a window and around a corner and in the door of the building. So the camera pans with me as I run. And then so after the shot, like I'm done, I'm dead. I'm like,
carrying 60 pounds of
carrying all this gear. And I swear to you, Patrick, I'm running full tilt. Like I am going for it. I'm like Pinball Clemens, just gone. They play it back, and I look at Gabriel and I go, "You slowed that down." He goes, "No, dude, that's how fast you run." I go, "No, I was running faster." And he goes,
Wait, but how many takes did you have to do for that though?
Oh, I can only do one. I'm old and out of shape. That's it.
It was a very guerrilla kind of movie, and I don't want to make it sound any more impressive than it was. It was a horror movie filmed in Camp 30 in Bowmanville. And,
I've been there. Yeah,
it was pretty awesome. Just the experience of doing it and all of us hanging out. It's just such a fun thing, and I'm sure that's part of the attraction that you have to making movies is the camaraderie you have with your co-hosts and your I say co-hosts, your actors and your staff and your crew that you have working with you. We're going to get into that a lot. Before we do that, though, I do want to say hello to Mark and just say welcome. It's been a week since I've seen you.
A whole week.
I go through Mark withdrawal, so I know that.
Man, we talk every day. We text every day.
True.
So you can't miss me all that much.
I'm thankful for that. I'm very thankful for that because there's been some crazy things that have gone on, and I'm going to bring it up right away at the beginning of our conversation. This is recorded the day after the Oscar Awards. And I have to talk about it because it impacted me. It really impacted me. And mental health is something that our show is very, very strong on. And with your videos, Patrick, I was looking through your YouTube channel. You've got things like Dance Saved Your Life, Finding Yourself, Stop Burning Out, Passion Over Profit. And then your 5 ways to overcome perfectionism and imposter syndrome, which is something that Mark and I have talked about a lot, imposter syndrome specifically. But in light of the situation that happened with Will Smith last night on the show, being as it's obviously a mental health thing going on for him right now. His wife has alopecia. We had Anthony Orsatti on our show. He has alopecia, and he's bald because of it. And it's a real problem, and people go through a lot of mental health over it. So for somebody like a Will Smith, who I looked at as the perfect guy, like Will's always been there my whole life. From Fresh Prince on, he's been that guy that you look at as the cool guy who can handle himself in any situation. And there he is standing up and smacking a guy on the most televised show possible. It hit me. It hit me like, holy crap. Everybody's going through through some crazy stuff right now.
Yeah.
Now I know filmmaking is a medium that we use to bare our soul and to, to show people worse situations, better situations, things to learn from, all these different things. How do you see filmmaking as that outlet, that source? Because you've obviously used it to help yourself.
Yeah.
So maybe you can give us some enlightenment on that from your perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like growing up, art forms have always been a huge part of my life in terms of expressing the way that I feel, things that I go through. I don't like to resort to unhealthy coping mechanisms, and so for me, creation has always been one of those things. So it started with dance. Dance was a really big self-expressive outlet, and then when it came to filmmaking, it became one of those things where you're capturing the world, but then you're also able to create a world and show people kind of your perspective on life, right? Like, I think everybody has a certain way that they see the world. And so it's hard to catch on somebody else's perspective sometimes. But when you can shape a story in a way that kind of portrays your perspective throughout the whole piece, it kind of helps to show where you are mentally, and it kind of shares that world, immerses people into that world, and helps them understand. So being able to use filmmaking as a tool to help people relate better, I feel like has been a huge tool for me to not only express the way I feel, but also try to share ways that other people may feel, and try to help other people cope with it as well.
Is that how you see your filmmaking, as an opportunity to help other people as well?
Yeah, I think with everything, like whenever I try to invest myself into something, I want to make sure that I can help other people, not just myself. I want to make sure that I'm fulfilled, but I think I gain fulfillment out of being able to help other people, because I feel like if it's just for yourself, like there's value there, but how much value can there really be unless you're making an impact on the audience, or on like the people that are surrounding you?
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. Anything, I always say it's the wake that we leave. You know, you have a boat that drives down the water and you leave this wake. As a human, we leave a wake as well. And is that wake going to be so strong that you bowl people over, going through a slow zone? Or is that wake going to be nice, and people are going to remember you fondly? And, like, what do you leave behind? So as a filmmaker, I mean, everything you create is there for people to hit people. And what's your favorite thing to film? Like, what topic really gets you excited?
Into the craft. And even now, that's something that really like hits a soft spot for me, because just being able to see the level of freedom that people get to go through, and like the level of happiness and awe and wonderment that people have when they're in those videos, it's something that I aspire to not only feel, but make others feel as well. But now I'm more so in the space where I've been doing a lot more brand work. The travel hasn't been as big in the last 2 years. And so a big way that I've pivoted is, again, growing up doing dance, I played sports as well. I'm realizing that I really enjoy filming movement, because again, there's like a freedom in movement, and there's like, as humans, we have the ability to move. And so I think there's a lot of beauty in things that we don't usually give a lot of emphasis to. And so things like dance, things like even simple movements like writing or typing, I like being able to focus on those things and bringing bringing emphasis, and just like being able to what's that word? So I'm trying to find the word. I'm drawing a blank. To just appreciate it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say that, because there's when we look around, I remember as I'm learning photography, and Brian was actually a great inspiration for me. He taught me a lot. I did a lot of his day trips and things with other instructors. And I remember talking to one of the other instructors who was helping a client of his with her camera. And I guess she had stepped out of the room, and he was playing with her camera a little bit, and he took a couple of pictures with it, and in her kitchen, and showing her the pictures. Okay, so this is an example of this that we were just talking about, it, whether it was a shallow depth of field or whatever it was. And she looked, she goes, "Oh my God, what is that?" And he goes, "Oh, that's the lid of your garbage can." And she goes, "Oh my God." So she looked, and all of a sudden this garbage can was a beautiful thing in the picture. And it's funny how we overlook things that are beautiful every day because we're looking for that bigger picture, or we're not looking at it in the right light or the right angle. And I that where you're talking about showcasing that particular item, that thing that can inspire somebody. That's awesome to hear. And I like that you did the dance. So you dance yourself?
Yeah, so
Okay,
I
cool.
grew up breakdancing. I've been doing it for
Okay.
kind of just over 10 years. Yeah.
Wow. So yeah, I mean, I was a kid when I guess, was it the 80s when the original breakdancing came out? You know, they're making the mats out of big cardboard
Popping and
pieces.
locking, rocking and popping. Yeah.
And it was something
Yeah.
I could never do. I mean, I was always a chunky kid and always out of shape, but it was something I always admired, like people that could move that way, and the athleticism in there. And even as an adult, I appreciate dance, and I appreciate the movement and the form of it. Watching all the dance shows, you know, like the Dancing with the Stars, and So You Think You Can Dance. They're always fun to watch. I don't want to call
being
them
able
like
to see what people can do with their bodies is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right.
Those are
Muscle
the
control.
those are the sports I get into, right? I love that sort of thing, watching it in awe. And I think largely because I don't know if I can dance, but not like that.
You can move.
Right?
You get the rhythm.
I can do that. I don't like it, but I can do the foxtrot and I can do the merengue.
Okay.
And I can do stuff like that.
Cool.
My wife and I actually took ballroom dancing classes before we got married.
Love that.
I've wanted to do that too.
It was fun. It was a lot of fun, but I appreciate the form of dancing, and I appreciate all of that. So when you have somebody that's showcasing it, but it's interesting that you said, you know, something like typing, and to think about what your hand is doing, that motion, that's incredible. To think about that as typing. So we're going to have to make sure we post Patrick's YouTube page down below so people can go see it.
Wow.
And so I can go see it because I want to go see it as well. Now, Brian had talked about the subjects that you had touched on. When you set out to make a film, do you sort of have an idea of a subject and then it morphs into this sort of because a lot of them are mental health themes? Does it morph into that, or do you start going, okay, I want to attach myself to this theme and this is what I'm going to make and here's how I'm going to make it? How does that play out for you?
Yeah, so usually when it comes to creating these types of videos, I don't go in with the idea that, I want to create this video. I think a large part of what I'm doing when I'm creating this video is I'm trying to document my lived experience as well. And so if I'm going through something, chances are other people are going through things too. And so what I try to do is find ways around the things that I'm dealing with. And I try to put them into practice, like throughout I try different approaches to try to get over it. And whatever seems to work, I try to share it because, again, if I'm going through something, I think other people are probably going through too. So if I can bring any value in helping those people cope with what they're dealing with as well, I want to be able to take that opportunity. So I use video as an outlet to try to help out with that as well.
When you say dance saved your life, finding yourself,
right?
How did that theme come up? And maybe you can walk us through that whole process of turning that into a video.
Yeah. So that video was not originally going to be entitled Dance Saved My Life. I actually was not sure what to title that video, but doing that video made me think back on the importance of dance in my life and how it's brought me to where I am right now. Growing up doing dance, it wasn't something that my friends ever did. It was one of those things that my friends had their own hobbies. They had their own things that they like to do, and I just never really related to it. It didn't seem for me like something that would bring me down a path that I wanted to go down. So it kind of separated me from that group, and it showed me a really different perspective on how to really approach my life. Because, for example, when hip hop was first kind of growing and gaining traction in New York, it was a way for a lot of youth to get out of like gang stuff, for example. I was never in gang stuff, which is pretty fortunate, but it just allowed me to not kind of go into habits of like smoking or doing drugs or anything like that. And it was an artistic way to cope with, like, you're going through puberty, there's a lot of things that are going through your mind. And so as a way to express myself, as a way to like kind of put myself into something, dance was always there for me, and it kept me out of trouble too. So
yeah, super important.
That is
having an outlet. When I lived in Vermont, it was very much either you were getting into trouble because you're bored, have nothing to do, or you find something like dance, or in Vermont shooting guns and
Right.
all kinds of other things that people did there. But yeah, as a younger person, you have to find things to keep yourself busy
Right.
and stimulated, or else you fall into really bad habits that could really be a problem.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Mark. You know you wanted to say something there.
Yeah, no, I was just because you mentioned there, not getting into gangs and things like that. So was that I'm not sure which city you grew up in, but was that a big part of the city life? And is that how the breakdancing happened? Like, instead of getting in a gang, you sort of joined a dance crew? Am I right
Oh,
there?
definitely not. Definitely not. I was lucky. I live in a pretty safe area. I live in Markham. No gang stuff really happening there. But during the time that I was growing up, there were people that were just trying to do things that were a little less like good, like just not as good. And it was just certain crowds of people that I just didn't want to spend too much time around. I didn't join a dance crew, so to speak, but I met people, and I kind of had a friend who did dance. One friend who was I was in grade 9, he was in grade 12, and he kind of took me to a bunch of practices. I met people and started spending more time there. But yeah, that did keep me out of trouble. That kept me from kind of engaging in other things that probably wouldn't have helped me develop like as healthy habits. So it's something that I definitely thank dance for the opportunity to like be where I am. Otherwise, I'm not too sure where I would be, because I think as an outlet, like I can work out all I want. Like, doing a physical activity is one thing, but I think the expressive outlet, the artistic kind of nature to dance makes a big difference, because I'll be working out and I might not be feeling good. I might have some negative emotions. At the end of the workout, I'll still have some negative emotions. But dance has always been that one thing for me that no matter what I'm going through, maybe I got into a fight with a significant other. At the end of the day, when I'm done my practice, I feel released. Like, I feel good. I'll go back and I'll reevaluate everything, and like I'll definitely be a lot more like easy to talk to after.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's good. I'm glad you have that outlet to ground yourself, to bring you back into it, because so many people don't have that. And is that like, I was looking at how dance saved my life. Is that like, it's only a 9-minute video for viewers and listeners, so I'm going to watch it after the show. But I'd encourage you to go ahead and watch it, because I'm curious to see. But can you give us sort of a quick Cole's Notes version of a video like that?
Right. I'm not gonna lie. I think that video was done a while ago, so I don't quite remember the contents of that video.
Okay, no worries.
That's fair. That's the thing about creating. I mean, we're always coming up with something new. We're always trying to give ourselves something to be inspired by.
Right.
And that inspiration ebbs and flows so quickly. 1 minute we're knees deep in this project that we're so passionate about, and then like 6 months later, it's like, what was that again? Our brain shifts so strongly towards something else. Now I feel the same way when I play the drums as you do about dancing. Like, I could have all the stress in the world and all these stress relieving techniques that I can come up with in life, but I sit behind a drum set for a couple hours and nothing remains. I'm spent. Right. I'm tired. I feel great. Of course, I haven't been able to do that in a couple decades, but alternatively, I've turned to photography for that stress relief, right? And it's really helped out. And if it's not for the photography, it's for the people I know through photography, like Mark and my friends that I can talk to every day and vent and get the stress out. Now, in the questions that we sent out, I really got a strong vibe that your family is extremely important, and they've been a big help to you through this as well. Maybe you can give us an idea of how your family has been there for you and how this support system has helped you achieve your goals.
Right. So, interestingly enough, they haven't always supported what I do. Early on with the dance stuff, they didn't support me doing that, because I think the idea of breakdancing, you kind of have this connotation that it might be a little like ghetto, so to speak. So they always had that misconception, and I always had to tell them, like, no, like it's great, like the people there are great, like the environment is great, like everything was great. When it came down to doing videos and photos, they didn't originally think that it was going to be a career, because I graduated York University for kinesiology. So they always thought that I was going to follow more of like a physiotherapy or chiropractic type of career lifestyle. But I picked up a camera right after I graduated. I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to do something artistic. And they let me kind of do that for a little bit, but they never stopped reminding me to try to get a real job. And it hasn't been until recently, maybe the last couple of years, like the last maybe 2 years or so, that they started to really like support me a lot more. Like here and there, when I said that I was gonna go buy gear, I'll have my dad offer be like, hey, like, do you want me to give you money for that? And like small things like that kind of show that they're starting to support me. They're starting to see what's up. And then when I go for jobs now, when I go for projects, they'll ask me pretty often. They'll be like, oh, like, do you have another project? And they'll like try to ask me and get a little more information about it just to show that they're interested. They'll even talk to my aunts and uncles about it, which is funny because I'm not really there a lot. So when I show up to an actual event and they start asking me questions about that, they'll tell me that they've been watching my Instagram and my YouTube, and like this is stuff that I wasn't even like I didn't know was happening. But when they started doing that, that was a really nice boost of confidence to know that my family is starting to support me in that, and to go from somewhere where they were like traditional and didn't see art as a career to a place where they're starting to see this as a viable kind of career path for me. That made me feel like I was heading in the right direction, and like making my family proud is always something that I wanted to do. So it was definitely affirming for me.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Instagram and YouTube. I mean, you kind of mentioned how they go to your Instagram. That's probably where I see you post more is on Instagram. What is your take on social media? What is your take on the importance of social media for a creator?
Right. I think there's a lot of controversy around that, I feel like, in the industry. I feel like a lot of people say that social media is a place where they can put their work, share their work, network. I agree with all these things. I think it's great for networking. I think as far as the portfolio goes, it's effective up to a certain point, because I think just like any other app or any other platform, at some point it's going to get old. People are going to switch over. And it's kind of dangerous if you put all your work just on social media. If that app kind of shuts down, then where do you have to show for the rest of your work, right? So I think having a portfolio somewhere else is really important, but social media is great when it comes to networking and just getting to know other people in the industry, getting inspired. That's something that I've been trying to do more with social media, is to keep my social media streamlined with the things that inspire me, so that I'm not getting lost in things that are going to take me away from like where my mind is at. Because the last thing we need is more distraction, right? Like with internet and with social media being so big nowadays, TikTok, I get stuck on TikTok so easily, but it's just distractions. So in terms of being a creator and using social media, I think it's useful if you use it in the right ways, but I think it can be pretty dangerous too.
Yeah, it's funny, every time as you're talking, all these other past shows that we've done are coming to mind. Like we just talked to Lori about archiving our data and how you can put all your stuff on social media, but then the platform can change, just like you said,
right.
Like boom, gone. Then you got to start like Google Plus. I was so invested in Google Plus, and then all of a sudden that just disappears, and we got to start all over. And so for sure that's a problem.
We talked about last week. We talked about a lot of platforms that we started out using. I had a MySpace page, but I mean, MySpace was the sort of the original social media, and it's now. I see as a lot of companies merge together. Like obviously, Facebook owns like Meta is Facebook, and it's Instagram.
Yeah.
And do they own another one? Is there a third one in there?
LinkedIn, maybe.
I'm not sure.
I don't know.
But like at work, we use a version of Facebook called Workplace, and it's Facebook for work, which completely floored me when I started. I'm only 6 weeks with the company, so that kind of floored me that we have a platform, Facebook for work. That's it doesn't link to anything on Facebook itself. It's all self-contained, but it's interesting that they use the same platform with the same message app and the same communities and whatever. So that's kind of cool.
That's really interesting.
Yeah, it is interesting to say. I mean, because if social media does go away, like what if it changes to something else? Where is your body of work, right? As a photographer, like I have a Flickr page, but again, I mean, who goes to a Flickr page other than another photographer? So it's not like my work goes anywhere. I mean, really, where it's archived the most is on my mother's living room wall. She's my biggest fan. Yeah, so
love that.
Unfortunately, the mother's living room wall doesn't get you work. It doesn't. You don't have people seeing your work there and being like, "Hey, I got to hire that guy."
I don't work as a photographer. I work,
Yeah.
Right.
But
when she has guests over, you'll get some photo work.
Yeah. That actually leads me to my next question, though. Like, as a working filmmaker, how do you find work? How do you get jobs?
Yeah, so funny enough, a lot of it comes from Instagram. A lot of my clients will message me either through Instagram or they'll email me. But a lot of times they'll say, "Hey, like I saw your work on Instagram and I really like it." They'll either be on my page or they'll find it through funny enough hashtags. I didn't think hashtags actually worked, but I've had enough people tell me they found my work through hashtags too. Aside from Instagram, it's a lot of word of mouth. I feel like word of mouth is huge, and so that's another aspect of like why social media is important because you have the networking aspect, and so the more people you meet, the more people they know, the more your work can kind of spread through like quote unquote exposure. But yeah, it's brought me more work than I've expected, and I'm grateful for it. But you always have to think at the back of your mind when is that well gonna run dry? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the problem with working for yourself is you just never know where the next job is going to come from, or if the next job is going to come, and that's daunting for sure. Has family supported you in that regard? Like, because as a budding filmmaker, or photographer, or anything like that, if that's your sole income, it's nice to know that at least know that you have support, that somebody can give you some backup if worse comes to worse, right?
Right. I feel like as far as this space is concerned, I try to be specific with the type of work that I do, and I feel like mixing work with family and stuff because I'm like not really around much either. I almost don't feel right kind of doing that work with them. They have been supportive though. They've tried to message me and ask about like if I'm able to do certain projects because my dad's side of the family, well, my mom's side of the family, my cousin is an artist, so he'll do a lot of murals, he'll do paintings and stuff like that. He's one of the people that have really inspired me to follow my passion as a career.
Nice.
My dad's side of the family, one of my cousins is an artist and she sings, and so she's talked to me about potentially helping her get coverage of like her events and stuff before too. It just so happened that I also wasn't available during those times, so it was a little difficult.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
How has COVID affected your work? I mean, before
Right.
COVID, you
Yeah.
say you've only really been doing it for 2.5 years or so. I mean, you pretty much started being a full-time creator
Yeah.
right before COVID hit. So how did that change how you do business?
Yeah, COVID has been really interesting on the business because I feel like I'm still really early into it. And so I've had a lot of time to learn through it. When COVID first hit, I feel like a lot of people took a break. I feel like a lot of people stepped back. I tried my best to just keep going. I tried my best to kind of keep working, try to keep improving my work so that when COVID ended, my work would be at a higher place. I ended up taking a master class, which was super helpful too. It's been really big at like helping me network with more filmmakers around the world, but also helping me to level up my work. Um, at some point, the business was actually better because brands were still able to create marketing content. There was nothing in like against the regulations for that, so I was still getting booked with clients. And then there was another point in COVID where I stopped taking clients as much, and I just took the time to explore more to see where I was going because burnout was a real thing. So seeing everybody else relax and me continue to try to keep going, um, it it's kind of tiring and it's kind of discouraging, especially when the world isn't moving as fast, and so you're putting all this work in, and you're wondering like where's that energy going. So I tried to take a step back and start doing more passion projects. So I tried reaching out to other brands that I would want to kind of do work with, and that kind of put a stop to the income, which was daunting as well. So it was just trying to find like a balance in between there. But coming out of COVID, I think I'm at a point where because I've done the exploration, I'm in a better place to know how to tackle the business side. But I also am a lot happier with how my work looks as an artist too. So it's definitely benefited me in a lot of ways.
Good for you. Way to
Yeah, thank you.
capitalize on a negative and turn it into a positive. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's the hardest thing. And I think for us as well, I mean, we took this COVID soul crushing time. I mean, we spent about a year in it before I finally said we have to do something. And that's when we started the podcast. But the podcast has certainly been a soul saver and it's given us I can only speak for myself. I can't speak for Mark or the others, but it's given me definitely a sense of purpose and pride. I'm very proud of being able to do something like this and talk to people like yourself, because people need to hear some things like this. And if people don't need to hear it, I need to hear it. And that's the whole, my hashtag, I've talked about it many times, is I shoot for me. That's I shoot for me. It's kind of every photo, everything I post, it has I shoot for me on there. And that's what you're talking about in your burnout being a real thing, and your video Stop Burnout, Passion Over Profit. I think that's a very important point to talk about, sticking to your passions, because when you enjoy something, if you don't make all the money in the world, at least you're still enjoying it. Whereas if you have to take all these jobs that you're just doing for profit, that can kill the soul. So what was it that made you come to that reality and made you make a video on it?
Right. I as a creator, I've burnt out many times. Like, I feel like I hit patches of like weeks where I was just kind of hustling and I was doing a bunch of client work, and it was great because, like, stereotypically, if you think about what most people think about success, is being able to make like a certain amount of money. And so I was like, how can I make more? How can I make more? Because as an artist, I kind of don't want to be a starving artist. Like, that was the last thing I wanted to be. And so I was trying to do everything I could to make like a respectable income. And weeks go by and I'll feel burnt out, and I wouldn't even know that it's burnout. I just have no energy. I don't feel motivated. I don't want to do anything. And I feel like as an artist, it's a pretty dangerous space to be in. So that kind of made me look at why, because this is something I'm supposed to be passionate about doing. So if I'm passionate about this, why am I feeling unmotivated to do it? And I kind of had to experiment here and there. I had to try different approaches. And I just realized that it wasn't about the fact that I was doing filmmaking. It was more so like my approach at filmmaking and like what my mentality was when I was doing it. Because if I was doing it for money, if I was doing it for income, I actually stressed out more, and it prevented me from making a better income. And then my relationships that I was making, they weren't as deep and they weren't as meaningful. So you're just missing out on a lot of the things that make life beautiful when you're focusing on the wrong things. And that ultimately was something that made me hit burnout many times. And so that really made me step back. I had to actually like leave the country to be like, yo, the only way I'm going to stop like putting pressure on myself to take clients is if I'm not around them. So I had to leave the country and just have a little vacation. Yeah.
That's great that you were able to step back from it, and I completely understand. I do photography scavenger hunts. It's sort of like my creative outlet, and I'm like, I shoot for me now. I mean, I've got a wedding coming up in July that I'm shooting. It's a small wedding, so it's not anything huge and involved. But in my previous career, before I retired in November and then went back to work in February because I got being retired. But in my previous career, I got to a point where I had props, I had ideas, to create the images. The deadline was coming up, and my wife's like, okay, well, and I'm like, no, I don't have it in me. And she's looking at me like, you're not okay, are you? No, I'm not. And Brian and I had been doing this for that very reason, for mental health. But the soul was just sucked right out of me so bad. And so I retired, and then in the next round, they give you 10 words to make images for. In the next round, I got all 10 images instead of, I think I shot 3 in the first one. So it like not the first round, but it was the round that I just had no gumption. Like I said, I had gone out and actually bought props. I had things to create images with. I had ideas, just no gumption to do it. So I completely get where you're coming from. And sometimes you need to step out of that box. I do have to ask though, where did you go?
I went to Miami. I was there for 3.5 months. The girl I was dating at the time was living there, so I was living with her, and it was very helpful to kind of focus more on personal life instead of the career life. And I was able to connect with some people over there, like other photographers and filmmakers there too. So I felt like I was still doing something productive towards the career without actually kind of like working because I felt like I had to.
Oh, and that's great. Like, I mean, Miami has a definite heartbeat. Like, it's got a different heartbeat than many cities. So I've been there a couple of times, and it's an interesting place for sure, with so many wonderful places to go and visit and see. So I can see how you can easily, and especially when there's no snow, because there's last week and another 35 coming this week. So
another 35 is coming.
No, here in Thunder Bay, yeah.
Oh, okay.
And the next 3 days are saying 30.
We don't have to worry about that here, Patrick.
I got scared.
We'll get something, but not that bad.
I fixed the snowblower yesterday. I'm good, but
oh wow, okay.
But it's I can see how you can step out of that and the travel. Like you talked about travel photography
Right.
and travel filmmaking. How do you find like? Do you find there's an audience for that, or do you make that for yourself? Like when you do that.
When I do that, it is more for myself, and it's just creating that sense of awe and wonderment that like I can look at and be inspired by. Because again, I feel like if I can be inspired by that, there are probably a lot of people that are inspired by the same thing. And so a lot of this stuff, I feel like in travel filmmaking, people say it's oversaturated, but I try not to let that stop me from being creative in the ways that I want to be. Because at the end of the day, this should be an outlet and like a way to express yourself.
Yeah.
And so I just try to just do it. I try not to think too much
Yeah.
about it. Yeah. I feel like in the past when I've tried to think about like whether there's an audience for things or not, it pigeonholed me a little bit into where my creativity could go, and it didn't allow me to just do the things that I wanted to do.
For sure.
You know,
It's
Mhm.
interesting. I'm looking at, like, I've got your Instagram page up here, and scrolling through which tab I'm on here. I think I'm on the videos, but your posts, your videos, and your reels that I scroll through. You definitely have a unique sort of flavor. There's a style about your work
Wow, I appreciate
that
that.
I think if somebody were to watch enough of your work, they would see it and go, "Oh, that's Patrick Warpath." Like they would know
Wow.
that it's your work. I'm looking at it,
Yeah.
and
Wow.
I definitely see you've got a style. And there are so many creators, myself included. I think I could take 1,000 pictures and put them out there, and nobody would know it was mine. But with
Interesting.
you, I'm looking at that, and I think my problem is I try and mimic other photographers. Like I see something and I go, I like that, and I try and
Right.
recreate it. Whereas you have your own voice, you have your own style,
Wow.
and I definitely think anybody that's coming to you for your work on especially through your Instagram channel,
Right.
it's because they like what they see from your style, and that's what they want for their brand image. So
Wow.
I think when you talk, we talked a few minutes ago about what happens if that platform goes away.
Right.
You're positioning yourself to protect yourself from that, because people will see your, whether it's a print ad, or whether it's a commercial media spot or something like that, and
Right.
another company will see that and go, I like that, I like the way that looks, and they'll contact. So say for example
Wow.
you were with Brand X and you did a video for them. Brand
Right.
X does this video, and then Brand C goes, ooh, I like that. They're calling Brand X to go, who did that video? We want him. So
Right.
I I think you're positioning yourself well for that, and that's me. As
Wow.
I'm not in the business, but if it was me in the business and I saw your work and that's the flavor I wanted, I'd find out who did it. Right.
I really appreciate that. I don't think you know how much that means to hear that, because I feel like as a creator, like we always want to have like this type of impact on people and to know that we have a specific style. And so for you to say that, that means a lot. Thank you so much.
So you're welcome. You're
Yeah,
welcome.
thank you
And
so much.
but yeah, it's anybody who's listening, find Patrick on
Wow.
Instagram, find him on YouTube. We'll put the links below in the
definitely.
show. You got to see his work. You just have to,
I
especially
appreciate
if you're on Spotify. You can't go and see it, but
it.
we'll share the links, and yeah, go check it out. It's worth
No, I
looking at.
Well,
really appreciate that. Wow.
this is
Thank you.
why I wanted you to be a part of the show, Patrick, because I mean, you've got the talent, you've got the drive, but what really gets me is how mentally proactive you are. And
Wow.
what I mean by that is you see the potential of being unhappy in something, and you shift your viewpoint, you shift how you do things, and that makes your work better for it, you know? So
Yeah.
I think that's so important to be self-aware in that way, that
Right.
you have to understand what works for you and what doesn't. There's a lot of people who take the work no matter what, whether they have to or not, or whether
Right.
they like it or not. And unfortunately, these are the people that do get the burnout on a more permanent basis. You know, it's
Right.
one thing to have burnout and disappear for a little while, come back and be invigorated. It's another
Right.
thing to have burnout and be like, screw this, I'm done.
Yeah.
Can't do it anymore. And when you take it too far, but without being that, you know, I'm just coming up mentally proactive, a way of thinking.
Right.
I think that's a real problem that people can run into.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with what you're saying. It's scary though. It's scary to try to step away for a little bit. But again, with what you're saying, I think it's scarier to just stop forever, especially if it's something that you love. I feel like the stakes are too high. And the way I look at it is like, if I'm gonna constantly burn out, is this how I want to spend the rest of my life? Especially if this is something I want to spend the rest of my life doing. And so like I know that's not something I want to be doing. I know that mentally it's probably not good for me. So it just seemed worth it. It seemed like the only way to go was to find a way to kind of fix that issue.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go back to something that Mark and I were talking about before you came into the chat.
Yeah.
He said you could tell that you're young because in the notes that you gave us, you said, aside from filmmaking, photography, passionate about dance. No, wait, that wasn't it. Where is it? The small camera. Yeah. Your dad actually bought you a small Sony camcorder back then. And of course, Mark and I, back then, the camcorders were like shoulder rigs or 2-piece systems where the separate recorder and the handheld camcorder. So first off, how old are you?
I'm 26. I'm turning 27 in August.
Awesome. So yeah, that's the
half
right
our
age
age
to be where you're at.
You're at a good space that the technology is in your favor.
Yeah, it's scary though because things are changing so fast. I have to make sure I keep up and continue learning everything, especially with the social media platforms. There's now the metaverse, everything. Like, if I don't keep up, then jobs are taken, and you just feel lost. And I just can't do that.
That's actually where I was going with the whole point is, being at your age, my age right now, like I've got 15, 20 years before retirement or so, right? And within that period of time, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of change. But having been raised in the tech world and audio video kind of thing, I think I'm okay. But you're at a point now where you've got this 50-year gap ahead of you where you're going to be working.
Don't scare them now.
I know, I'm sorry. But you've got like this journey ahead of you with the technology and with all the things that are coming out. I would be very not scared for it, but what's the word I'm looking for? Intimidated. Yes. Yeah. Intimidated. Exactly. How do you feel about all this? Like, are you confident in your ability to grow with the tech and to see the growing tech and to use that to your advantage, or is that something that intimidates you?
Yeah, honestly, it's something that intimidates me because I've been told by a lot of friends that my mindset can be a little traditional sometimes, and knowing that, I want to try my best to make sure that I'm not kind of sitting in that mindset, because if things are changing, you either grow or you fall behind. And for me, like, being so young in this space, I know there's still so much time for me to grow or not to grow. And obviously the idea is that, growing would probably be ideal. So it's intimidating because I know that there's going to be so many changes. And with new tech means you need to buy more stuff. It's expensive to think about, and it's a lot to learn. And if I'm trying to grow in one aspect of the industry, now I got to spend more time looking into another aspect of the industry that might not even be totally proven yet. And so it's kind of difficult to know which way to go and to know where I should put my attention. But I think the way that I'm trying to go about it is to surround myself with people who might be looking into that, so that they're more advanced into that, and just try to ask them questions. I'll try to listen to podcasts to see where people are taking it, because at this point, I still know very little about NFTs. I know a certain amount from podcasts and friends, but I still don't know enough to be able to buy my first NFT or anything like that, or even create an NFT. Like, I don't know enough about that, so definitely trying to surround myself with people.
A big part, yeah.
NFTs
and that tech we've talked about a few times on our show. It is scary. A friend of mine, Navi, is somebody who's quite into doing NFTs, and she does quite a bit of sales and purchases and stuff like that. And every time she talks to me about it, I'm just like, you buy a picture of a little gorilla with a banana? Like, what is that? Right. How could that make you money? But it does. Right. So knowing that kind of stuff really is important for sure. And I can see how that would definitely be involved in the life of a creator in the next coming years for sure.
It makes you NFTs is what it makes you. And then you turn that into money, which is weird. Like, the whole crypto thing to me is just bizarro. Like, if I hire you to shoot a commercial for my company,
right,
I pay you in dollar bills,
right,
or loonies. We're in Canada. I pay you. I transfer you that money. You can go to a bank machine and you can take that money. That money came from a mint. It was printed somewhere. It's all legal tender.
It's tangible.
Tangible, right? And then all of a sudden, we've got this cryptocurrency where did it come from? And I mean, I'm sure there's a video out there that explains it. I've not found it yet, and I go cross-eyed reading them, and I'm fairly tech savvy, and I get there, and I'm like, I just to me it looks like the bottom's going to fall out of the whole thing, and I'm like, yeah, I'm a chicken investor. I really am. I always pick the safe route, which is why I'm not a millionaire. But I it scares me. NFTs, cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just old. I don't know.
There are so many different applications for NFTs too, though, because I feel like as artists, we can look at it in a way to like display our art. But what I've been seeing a lot of people do is create communities out of NFTs, and the NFT isn't as much about the art as it is about what you get with owning the art. So being able to have exclusive access into events or something like things like that. I feel like that's what makes it very popular right now. But I've heard that it's still pretty early for what it is, and so like I think that makes it more intimidating too.
Yeah, because it could give away to the next big thing, right? NFTs, if they take off enough, suddenly it's, and I'm going to age myself here, suddenly it's laser discs that big, but then all of a sudden DVDs came out and laser discs done, you know, and you can still
that's
buy
my
it.
era.
Yeah,
that's what I'm used to. That tech coming in, disappearing. Yeah. You have to Google laser discs?
Yeah, I don't think I know what a laser disc is.
God, I'm old.
Oh, I know what a floppy disk is.
Yeah. So yeah, laser discs were. It was a large. You know, obviously they're coming back. So vinyl records. So it was the size of a vinyl record, but it was a plastic case, and the laser disc was housed inside it. You slid the whole case into the player. It extracted the disc, and then you slid the empty case out. And when the movie was over, you went through the process. So the disc was housed there. You never actually saw the disc; it stayed in the case, in and out.
I remember that. I remember the disc being those big silver albums. They looked like actual albums.
The original ones were. It looked like a big DVD. I have a dog. It looked like a big DVD that went into your player, and it extracted it. It was just crazy. A friend of mine, when I was a kid, had one. His dad bought it. I remember watching Halloween Season of the Witch.
Wow.
See, that's the thing about having what's the word I'm looking for? Tenure,
right?
Life tenure. I've seen 8-track. I've seen cassette. I've seen records. I've seen reel-to-reels. 78 albums, 33 and 45 albums. Like all of this tech has gone, and then the beta, and then the 8mm, and then the VHS and the VHS-C, and like one thing after the other. Tech just changes and changes and changes. How we record, how we work with stuff. The life of a filmmaker today is so much better than when I first started selling audio video in the 90s, because I mean, then to add a title to something, like here I am sitting on a video screen with my name on there and your name on there and Mark's name on there, and this is something that we just signed into a room, and it's done. When I first started selling video, you had to buy a character generator for $750. That was like a little keyboard that you would type out the words to something, and then it would scroll across your screen, or you can program, and that's about it. And that was $750 just to add the words to a screen. Then you bought a second generator for doing this or that, and then mixing was a whole chore. And digital changed everything. So the next step in digital is very daunting, and I hope it's something that people are able to latch onto and use creatively. It always will be. I'm sure it's just getting easier and easier for people. But having that idea is the biggest challenge, and that's where I think I've had my biggest challenge, is coming up with the creative ideas to do something that people want to see and want to buy or want to be a part of. So for you to have that creativity and to be making a career out of it, kudos to you, my friend. Well done. It's not an easy line of work to be in, and you're doing well. So keep it up. Congratulations.
No, I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you.
No problem. Mark, do you have any questions before we get to our 3 questions of the day?
I don't. I'm laughing that you brought up 8 tracks. I'm just dying inside. I don't actually have any 8 tracks, but I have a car in the garage that originally came with an 8-track player in it. So
right on.
It's
Patrick,
all.
do you know what an 8-track is?
I have no idea what an 8-track is.
You'll have to Google it. You'll have to Google it.
8-track it's about that big.
Yeah.
It's a cassette that was about that big, huge, and you'd stick it into a player like an audio cassette. It was a magnetic tape media, and it was back in the 70s, I guess 70s, 80s.
Yeah, died out in the early.
And then it died out then. But I remember traveling cross country in my father's van, going from Montreal to California with Eagles Hotel California, Elton John, Honky Tonk Cafe. And then we were just listening to those same 8 tracks the entire trip from Montreal to California. It's ingrained in my memory.
The fun part about those is like the next generation was the cassette tape. So do you know what a cassette tape is?
I do know what a cassette tape is.
So the cassette tape, you could fast forward through it. With an 8-track, you couldn't just flip songs. It was you were at a spot in the thing. The only thing you could do is change tracks. So you could move from track to track, and it was wherever you were in that song, that's where you were. So you could if you wanted to rehear the song, you had to switch to the track that was rewinding the tape the other way, listen to a song, and then flip it back so it would go back
have
through.
The tape go back so you can
couldn't just rewind it.
There's a separate button for each track, so you just press the next button and it'll go to the next track. Tech has changed. In my lifetime, it's amazing how fast tech has changed, and I'm just so happy that you have the ability in this day and age to just create. And if you could think it, you've got the tools to make it happen. So that creativity is paramount. So keep it up. Awesome.
No, thank you so much. Thank you.
Perfect.
Okay, so let's get to our questions for you. One question you already know the answer to because you gave us the answer. So let's start with that one. We issue a challenge, or we ask our guests to issue a challenge for our viewers. I'm still hoping that maybe one day some people will actually do our challenges and share them with us. But I think the practice is still good to. Yeah, and I did your challenge already, Patrick, actually. Today.
Oh, did you?
I did the challenge that you issued. Yeah. So I'm going to shut up now, and I'm going to let you discuss, if you can remember, the challenge that you issued. Maybe you can lay that out for our viewers.
I'm going to have to pull it up right now because I actually forgot the challenge that I
can read it for you here. Yeah, this week, we'd like to challenge the audience to create a photo video owning an insecurity they may have, to take that sense of fear and turn it into something that can give them some power. I love that. And this morning I was rehashing the whole Will Smith situation. I'm sorry to bring it up again, but it really impacted me because I'm anti-bully. I am somebody who's always been very pro Will Smith, and to see him bully up like that was like, it was shocking to me. It was traumatic to me to see that. So I kind of had a moment of this insecurity, and I wrote a whole poem about what I was going through and the whole thing. And I really took your challenge to heart. And I think I'm not going to read it because, taking the challenge and actually revealing the challenge to the public is two different things.
Yeah.
But,
you can send it to me later. I'd love to read it.
Yeah, I can do that.
I appreciate
it. It was pretty, I find that when I'm writing something, it's always very from a dark place, and I'm always taking that anger and that frustration and putting it out there. And it helped. It really did help. I came away from that with a lot less tears in my face. So it definitely helped me out. So that whole point of creating a photo or video, owning an insecurity, that's impressive. That's hard to do. Take that sense of fear and turn it into something that can give them power. It definitely worked for me, and I really hope our viewers can do something like that. Take your creativity and own some insecurity that you have. So have you done that yourself, Patrick? Well, you have. I mean, I've got 3 examples here. 5 ways to overcome perfectionism, right? Yeah. Like you've got some things that you've, at least in the title. I mean, maybe I'll watch them a little deeper and see if you actually did that.
Hopefully I did. I feel like, as far as these things have go down, I'm a very expressive person, and so when it's something that I'm facing, even if it's a negative thing, I try to go for things head on. And so insecurities suck, and a lot of people like to keep them hidden, but I feel like the only way to really overcome them is to kind of confront them. And so I feel like that's been the only way that I've been able to kind of grow as a person, grow past these insecurities instead of letting them define me. I feel like it's an ongoing process. We're always going to have something we're insecure about, or we're going to have some level of insecurity towards something. But if we can control that instead of letting that control us, I feel like we're a step ahead,
And I think giving yourself the challenge to do it is also giving yourself the practice of doing it, because it's not easy to just overcome insecurities. It's just not. So to write them down and to get them out like that, I think is a really good practice. Great challenge.
And to own an insecurity or a fear, to own it and to write about it and to embrace it takes away that insecurity or that fear's power over you. So
at least for the moment,
you can use that to grow as an individual and get over that and continue to practice and get over that insecurity or fear.
Right.
That's great. That's great. Because they only have power if we give it to them. Right? So
that's right.
Right.
Mind is a very strong thing, and it's the only thing that we can control or sometimes control.
Or can we? Yeah.
Yeah, really.
Yeah.
All right.
No, for sure. I mean, it gives you an excuse to kind of like empower yourself with that insecurity too, because now you get to create something out of it, like create something beautiful out of something that you felt was dark. So
lemonade.
I just thought it was a cool opportunity.
Absolutely.
I love it. Great challenge. Thank you for that.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Next question. Next question of the 3 questions that we have at the end of the show is, what is your tool of the trade? What is it that you can fall back on and use for any job that you do or every day that you're thinking of being creative? What tool of the trade do you think you would fall back on? It doesn't have to be something physical. It can be a concept of something. But have you given any thought to that? Like, what do you fall back on as your tool of the trade?
Is it something to keep me inspired or something to help me create, or
the tool that you find you use most often when you're trying to create?
Right. The biggest thing that I default to when I try to create, I don't know if this answers the questions, hopefully it does. The thing that I default to most of the time when I'm trying to create is just visualization. So I'll kind of close my eyes and I'll just try to imagine like images based on like a feeling or based on something that's going on in my life. I'll think about what I'm feeling, what I want other people to feel, and I'll try to see what that looks like. I'll try to see what that means and try to relate that in a way that is effective at conveying that message. So that's a big thing that I do. That's something that I do, like not even for creating, but also to, again, coping and stuff as well. Like I'll close my eyes and I'll kind of see myself in like a room, and I'll just, like Tony Stark has like all the stuff floating around and like the digital. Yeah, I'll have that in my mind, but it'll be images of like things that make me feel a certain way, and I'll try to pull from there and like, yeah.
Love it.
Very cool.
Love it.
Love it. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, thank you.
That's really great. That's just, again, it goes back to being very mentally proactive. You use your mind in ways that I think are impressive.
Wow.
Not a lot of people can sit and visualize tools that they need, or visualize answers to the questions or things that they need to draw from to get past or to create. So the fact that you can put it to that level is pretty awesome. I'm always the term pre-visualization is something that came from Ansel Adams. Pre-visualize about an image and think before you shoot. And I talk about that a lot when I'm teaching photography. Instead of just grabbing a camera and changing settings and trying to see stuff, put it down and think. Even Lori Novak last week, she said her challenge is to put your camera down and think for 30 minutes and be in the space that you're in. So that visualization is a super powerful tool that I don't think people think of enough as a tool that they could use. So
absolutely.
Yeah. I think it's funny too.
All right.
Sometimes when I'm talking, I'll be like looking around, and I feel like it's the same thing with that. Like I've even used this when I was taking exams back then. I would study, and then I'd be writing an exam, and the person next to me would be like, "What is this guy doing?" And I'd just be like this, staring off in this space, and I'm literally just imagining like all these things, and it's just.
Oh, you went mute.
Yep. Sorry. How's it now? Okay.
Good.
Yeah. So it's just strange to see other people witness that going on. I even noticed in the beginning, especially, I kind of look around a lot when I speak. So that's probably why.
There you go.
Perfect.
Using your brain, your big brain. I love it.
Absolutely.
And the last question we have for you is just a fun question. What's your jam? What song do you never skip past? You give it a 5-star. You just absolutely love. Just makes you feel good in life.
Yeah, I really love A$AP Rocky as an artist. So songs like Goldie or Peso, they just amp me up a lot. They make me feel a certain way. They make me feel like a boss, but that I don't take myself too seriously. And so I would say those are the songs. Yeah.
Awesome.
Nice.
I love asking that question because I mean, as a musician, I played the drums back in the day. As a music lover, I find that, and as somebody who's of tenure, I'm stuck listening to the same kind of music all over and over and over again. And by asking this question, I'm opening up my music to so many great people. I love it.
Right.
So thank you for that.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah, no, of course.
Mark, do you have any other questions you'd like to talk to Patrick about before we say goodbye?
No, I'm good. I just want to say thanks again, Patrick, for being on the show, on the podcast. And it's been great talking to you, getting to know you a little bit. And I look forward to perusing your library of work on YouTube and on Instagram. So that's awesome.
No, thank you so much. Yeah, honestly, it's
absolutely
to be on this. Yeah, so thank you. The questions were great. They got me thinking too. I'm really grateful for the opportunity that you guys gave me to be on this and to just share what goes on in my mind. So thank you for that.
Perfect.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. It's been fun. And that's it for us tonight. I just want to remind everybody who's been watching us, please subscribe to our channel. If you like it, click a like. Share this with some people that you think may be interested. We have a great time doing this podcast, and it's really helped our mental health a lot. And even just watching back some of the past episodes is helpful at times. So I hope it's been helpful for our viewers as well. If you have any questions, if you have any suggestions on people that you think that we should bring on as guests, let us know. Otherwise, take care. We'll see you all next week. Take care. Ooh.